On November 24, 2025, the Department of Justice reached a landmark settlement with RealPage. The government's core finding: RealPage's ARM and YieldStar software collected non-public rental data from competing landlords, occupancy rates, lease terms, forward inventory, then generated daily pricing recommendations that made those landlords, in the government's own words, likely move in unison versus against each other. That is the statutory definition of a cartel. This settlement, alongside the concurrent FPI Management enforcement and the Yardi Systems litigation, marks a decisive shift. The DOJ has ruled that algorithmic coordination is the functional equivalent of the smoke-filled room of the 20th century. The corporate imperative has moved. It is no longer AI adoption. It is architectural sovereignty. Any pricing tool that ingests a competitor's non-public data, regardless of how many API layers separate the two parties, now faces heightened scrutiny under Section 1 of the Sherman Act. The standard enterprise response was an LLM wrapper: send internal data to a shared API, receive an output. The paper calls this shadow AI infrastructure. It fails the post-RealPage test on 2 counts. First, data commingling. A shared model refined by multiple competitors' transactions constitutes indirect information sharing under the Sherman Act. The API layer is not a legal shield. Second, the sycophancy trap. LLMs trained via reinforcement learning from human feedback are optimized to satisfy the user's prompt, not the firm's written compliance policy. The 2024 DPD chatbot incident made this concrete. The bot agreed the company was, quote, useless and composed poetry mocking its own services. Safety that depends on a system prompt is a bet, not a guarantee. The architecture the paper prescribes is deep AI, a 4-layer neuro-symbolic cognitive stack deployed entirely within a firm's own virtual private cloud. Layer 1, the neural voice. A privately hosted model, Llama 3 or Mistral, served via VLLM or TGI, handles all language tasks without leaving the corporate perimeter. No competitor signals touch it. Layer 2, the symbolic brain. Deterministic knowledge graphs, rule engines, and SQL solvers enforce corporate policy at inference time, not probabilistically, deterministically. Layer 3, the memory layer. Role-based access control governs all retrieval-augmented generation via local vector databases, Milvus, Qdrant. The same permissions that protect enterprise documents protect the retrieval context. Layer 4, the guardrail layer. Secondary BERT-based classifiers and constitutional immunity via NVIDIA NeMo guardrails. This layer cannot be overridden by a user prompt. Threading through all 4 layers, differential privacy. The Epsilon budget provides a mathematical guarantee. The inclusion or exclusion of any single firm's data will not materially affect the pricing output. No competitor's occupancy rate. No rival's lease terms. That is not a compliance claim. It is a proof. The regulatory record validates the architecture. The November 2025 DOJ settlement with RealPage establishes specific prohibitions. No ingestion of non-public competitor data in real time. No model training on data less than 12 months old. No auto-accept pricing without configurable human override. No reward functions biased toward price increases. Each prohibition maps to a layer the neuro-symbolic stack eliminates by design. Concurrently, the FPI Management settlement, $2.8 million, September 2025, and the ongoing Yardi litigation confirm that third-party pricing software providers are now held accountable for the coordinating function their tools perform. The business case is equally concrete. Organizations that successfully scale AI generate 3.6 times higher total shareholder return over 3 years. Only 5% of enterprises currently reach that threshold. Consumer trust data reinforces the argument. Fully AI-generated content earns 13% trust. Human AI hybrid production earns 48%. The smoke-filled room of the 20th century made antitrust history. Hub-and-spoke coordination through a shared algorithm has now been given the same treatment, and documented on the Federal Register. For the C-suite, 2 state statutes have closed the remaining escape routes. California AB 325, effective January 1, 2026, prohibits common pricing algorithms that incorporate competitor data when used by 2 or more parties. New York statute, effective December 15, 2025, attaches liability for reckless use of coordinating tools, even when the recommendation is never adopted. The wrapper is not technically weak. It is a liability instrument. Deep AI converts that liability into a strategic asset, fixed infrastructure and proprietary model assets, an institutional brain that can be valued on the balance sheet and defended in a federal courtroom. At Veriprajna, we engineer the cognitive architecture of the sovereign enterprise. The RealPage settlement was not a glitch. It was the signal. Read the 14-page brief, approximately 16 minutes, and understand the architecture that stays on the right side of the Sherman Act.